Hey guys, I'm Diana and I'm a product manager at a big tech company in Silicon Valley. There's one question I get all the time from aspiring product managers, current product managers, and even startup founders who are looking to hire their first product manager, which is, Diana, what the heck do product managers even do? And there's all these stereotypes you hear from maybe your engineering colleagues that we're in meetings all day. We like to tell them what to do. Well, keep watching because I'm about to break down 5 key components of what I do as a product manager within a 6-month period. Okay, so I said 5 before, but I'm giving you a bonus, so it's actually 6. So what are the 6? Number 1, coming up with a strategy. 2, aligning your team. 3, communicating cross-functionally with your leadership and your team. 4, the actual product work. 5, collaboration, up and down and across. And 6, setting the culture for your team. So let's get into it. So let's go through the first one, which is strategy. Strategy is one of the most ambiguous terms in product management, but also the most important. So what does strategy look like in my day-to-day? Strategy work for me always begins with understand work. And if I was to break that down even more, understand work encompasses of research questions we have, data analytics questions we have, and market research. So I'm going to show you some of the research questions I like to ask in the beginning, and also understanding our competitors. With that, I'm usually Googling who are the competitors in the space and actually trying their free trials of products if it's an enterprise product, or if it's a consumer product, downloading it myself and playing around with it. And then once we have all of that understand work distilled, it really enables me to then actually identify, which is the next step, what path we should be taking. So I'm able from there to narrow down what are the different themes based on, let's say, maybe what our competitor is doing or what we know our users care about. And then laddering up to goals. So what are some of the key metrics that we're striving for? Maybe that's to acquire as many users as possible. Maybe that's to close the gap in retention. And some of your key team members here that you're working with are your data scientists, your UX researcher, your product marketing manager. And if you don't have any of those, a lot of this work befalls onto you as a product manager. Now let's talk about the second key component, which is now that you understand and you have a good idea of what all the understand and the ecosystem of your product space is, you now got to align your team so they have a common understanding, which means presenting to your team all the understand work that you, your data scientist, your user researcher has come up with over the last couple of months, and sharing that context with them so to make sure that they're on the same page. That's a key component of product managers. Otherwise, it causes thrash. The first thing is presenting the understand work to your team. So usually for me, to kick off road mapping season, I summarize all the understand work we've done across the last quarter or the last 6 months and share that with the team. And after you present the understand work, it's time for one of my favorite parts of the product process, and my team's favorite parts too, which is team brainstorming. Your responsibility as a product manager is to come up with the themes that people should be brainstorming into. So let's say you're an e-commerce product, and one of the key themes that you've identified is you need to make payment easier for people to buy more. In your team brainstorm, you would start off with the problem that you're trying to solve or you guys identified from the understand work. Let's say you saw a significant drop off when users go to checkout, and then you have your team brainstorm what are solutions to maybe reduce the friction points and make it easier for our consumers to buy. After team brainstorm, after you get 3,000 ideas from your team, it's to do the work to prioritize evaluating the effort, so in here, the cost, versus the benefit and what we like to at our company call impact. And this is one of the trickiest parts. As a team, you can sort of map out on this grid where each of the products lay an impact and effort relative to each other. So our team goes the extra step to actually size some of the impact of some of these product features by working with our data scientists to project or to benchmark what impact in our key metric this may have. With these two key components, the deliverable is a roadmap. You probably hear this word all the time. What the heck is a roadmap? A roadmap is a plan. And by the time you have your understand work and you shared it with the team to get their feedback, to further optimize it, you have your first draft of a roadmap, which is product themes, the key metrics you guys are striving for, what the goals is, and what the timelines may be, what some of the product feature ideas that came out of the brainstorm are. So all of those fit into a roadmap, which is basically your plan for the next 3 months. This is a huge milestone. And what do you do with this next? You go tell the world! Well, almost the world. You go tell your cross-functional teams, your leadership, to further get feedback, to make sure you're not missing any key risks. But it's mostly to communicate to them what you guys want to be working on and what you will be working on the next 3 months. Okay, let's talk about the third component, which is communication. This is probably where the stereotypes that we're in meetings all day, sometimes we are. So this encompasses, one, leadership, meetings that you have maybe every quarter, every half to, again, communicate to leadership what you as a team have aligned as your roadmap. These meetings usually entail you walking through your roadmap, walking through your rationale of how you got to those conclusions. Best practice, make sure that your leadership is also aligned with the understand work. Otherwise, it's very easy for them to come to different conclusions, which can cause thrash. This session is also used to get feedback from them on parts that you might have missed. And leadership, they have a wide perspective of the company as a whole, so they might be really helpful in identifying things, cross-company priorities that you might not have realized. Okay, so what else are we communicating? I have a team weekly meeting, which encompasses most of our cross-functional team. So our engineers, our designers, our content designers, anyone who needs the context and is working on a day-to-day on our project. And I'm basically reminding them, hey, this is the plan that we talked about last quarter. How's the plan going? Where are we stuck? What are blockers? Other meetings that I'm in a typical week, one-on-ones with my manager, one-on-ones with people on my team, meetings that need some key decision, meetings where we're presenting to partner teams to get them to work with us. So all variations of meetings that you can imagine, we tend to host these meetings to push the team towards progress, towards the plan. Still with me? If this has been helpful so far, make sure to click like and subscribe below, and I'll make sure to create a second part to this video. So by this point, you've aligned your team, you've shared your plan with leadership, and gotten feedback from your team, the cross-functional team, and your leadership, and have incorporated. So you feel really good about your plan. And the next step is the product work, which is getting even more granular. So you know those ideas we've brainstormed from our team? Well, a lot of them are probably feature ideas. And you as a product manager creates what we in the industry call PRDs, product requirements documents. And that's usually a one-pager that encompasses of key things. What are the goals you're trying to accomplish with this product? What are the people problems that you've identified and want to solve? What are some of the key metrics you're trying to move? Some teams like to use the jobs to be done framework. It's not a personal favorite of mine, but definitely look it up. And once you come up with the product features, you have to get some feedback from your team to make sure, again, it encompasses of all the details that you guys are not missing key components. You have to get engineers to buy in to say this feature is even feasible, or to help them scope it down so that you're not designing something that's so hard that it'll take them a year just to build that one feature. So getting a multitude of cross-functional input locks in this project so that you can execute on it and getting their input on timelines too. And after that, you identify some experiments you want to run. So what is variant 1, variant 2 of this feature you're trying to build? A key part of product management is experimenting, iterating, because whatever initial hypothesis you have, there's a 50-50 chance it might be wrong. So experimentation is key to some of the most innovative product companies. And once you've done experimentation, design comes in to wireframe the different variations. And the design process usually starts with the wireframing. So in our team, sadly, we don't have a designer. So I end up being the designer. And what I do is I first start drawing wireframes. And these are rough sketches of what I think the customer experience, user experience is going to be like. Then I turn these wireframes, well, first I get some feedback from my team before I start building them in higher fidelity. The tool that I like to use is Figma. What else? Content design. So that goes in next, usually after the design is polished. Then getting additional engineering input. They're usually in parallel doing some architecturing to understand, how to build the back end, the front end. And then once engineers have built something, don't ship it without dog fooding. So dog fooding is basically using your own product before it launches. I've found so many times where dog fooding had allowed us to catch unintuitive experiences to make sure we ship high quality products. And another thing we like to do in product rollout is instead of shipping it out to 100%, we first ship it out to a small increment. So let's say 5% of the population. Evaluate, did anything go wrong? Did any customers complain? And then continue to roll out larger and larger so that we're able to pull back quickly if problems do arise. Number 5, collaboration. Working with cross-functional teams, partnerships. Again, one of my favorite parts, but definitely not the easiest, because sometimes us product managers feel like we're herding cats. One, I mentioned partnerships with internal and external teams. So sometimes I'll find myself pinging internal teams who I found have a similar goal, and I'm like, hey, you want a co-goal and work together? External partnerships. I'm looking for ecosystem partners who, again, there might be a win-win if we work together for them to help market the product we're building and vice versa. A lot of collaboration is also making sure you over-communicate, that you document things. I mentioned sometimes with collaboration, it's like herding cats. And this is particularly referring to the accountability portion of my work, because a lot of my cross-functional team members are working with different teams. So being a good product manager is good proactive collaboration, which is usually giving your teammates the context that they need, thinking of blockers that could come in their way, swooping in when there's aspects that you need to take on ahead of time. So for example, privacy and legal is a huge part that I take on to unblock the team. And the bonus one, number 6, which usually isn't in the list of product manager responsibilities. It doesn't have to be the sole responsibility of the product manager, especially in today's times where we're all working remotely, making sure that everyone on your team actually feels like a team. I love thinking about my teams as sports teams, and hence we usually end up playing a lot of games. So some of our team favorites are playing Pictionary, Taboo is my favorite, charades, and these are some that during quarantine time or as we're working from home, we're able to do. That wraps up the 6. Let me summarize what the 6 components are. The first one, coming up with a strategy, one of the key parts of being a product manager. Second, aligning your team. Third, communicating the plan across leadership, across your organization. Fourth, the product work. Fifth, collaboration. And 6, we just talked about, is setting the culture on your team. So I'm curious, what parts of this resonate? Which other aspects do you have questions on? Where should I do a deeper dive? Comment below to let me know where you want me to go deeper. Thanks, guys.